Good evening, good evening, good evening. Happy Saturday to everyone today. Welcome back to another live lesson. Today I'm doing a live lesson at a new time. I usually do my live lessons Saturday morning, but I have been promising that I would try a new time. I would try a later time on Saturday, just giving people maybe an opportunity if they couldn't join in the morning because it is quite an early lesson on Saturday morning. So I wanted to have a later lesson, a late start. So we'll check it out today. We'll see how it goes, and if it's good, maybe we'll continue with some late lessons, and then sometimes we'll do early lessons. But we'll see how it goes. If it's not as good as I expected, then we'll just go back to the early morning lessons. But I'm happy that we already got some people jumping on right now, which is great. Today we are going to be doing a lesson on quite versus rather. You can see it in the lesson title. So it says quite versus rather. Do you know the difference? So that's what we're going to do today. So as always, I'm going to put the lesson onto the screen, and you should see it shortly. There it is. We'll be looking at quite versus rather. This is what we'll do in today's lesson. I'll go over some of the grammar to begin with. I'll go over when we use quite, when we use rather. After that, we'll do an exercise where you must choose whether you use quite or rather. And then finally, which I think is the most important part of the lesson, is going to be the speaking part of the lesson. The last part of this lesson is I'm going to give you some scenarios. I'm going to give you some situations. And from there, you're going to read the situation, and then you're going to make a sentence, your own original sentence, using quite or rather. All right, so this is going to be kind of a all-encompassing lesson. So you should, by the end of this video, you should be quite comfortable using quite or rather in sentences. Okay, so let's jump right into it, because there is a little bit of grammar at the beginning. I don't really like doing a lot of grammar in these lessons because I know a lot of people kind of just click off and they start watching another video, because grammar is not the most exciting thing, but it's important that we learn when to use these words. All right, so let's start with quite. We're going to start with quite right here. Let's make it a little bit more vivid. Let's start with red there. All right, so when do we use quite? When do we use quite? I'm just going to make this bigger so everybody can see it. So if we look at the screen, it says quite is suggesting a moderate degree, sort of medium level. So especially in North American English, U.S. English, Canadian English, we are going to be using quite to talk that something is medium, fairly, it's to some extent. So you don't want to say it's extreme, but it's noticeable. All right, so if we kind of have like the level, this is normal, right? This is very extreme, very noticeable, right? It's going to be above this. It's kind of like in the middle of that. That's how I would use quite. Now, I do also want to make a note that in the UK, in British English, quite can have a different meaning at times. In British English, people will use quite to mean very. All right, so quite will mean very in British English. But since I'm from Canada, since that's where I grew up in Canada, and I lived in the US for a very long time, we're going to be looking at sort of North American, US English. So in that respect, quite means medium. All right, now a couple other things we're going to say here. Quite is more neutral, right? It's more neutral. We use it in positive sentences. We can make adjectives softer by using quite. Now let's look at some example sentences. Right? The first example sentence says, the movie was quite good. The movie was quite good. Okay. What does this mean? This means the movie was fairly good. Not amazing, but it was above average. All right, so that's how we use quite. It's fairly good. It wasn't amazing, but it's above average. So it's above that level that I just mentioned. Right? Second example here, it says, I'm quite tired. I'm quite tired. This means I'm fairly tired, but I'm not exhausted. I'm not exhausted. Exhausted would mean, I can't move. I need to sleep. Okay. So I'm fairly tired. Hello, YFS. How are you today? I hope you're having a great day. All right. Now, so that's the one thing I want you to remember, right? When you're using quite, you're kind of at that medium level. It's not up high. It's not amazing. It's not extreme. It's not very, unless you're in the UK. All right. So here, very means kind of medium. Now, let's look at rather. Now, rather is a little bit more interesting because rather is stronger than quite. All right. So quite is kind of medium. Rather is going to be much higher. Okay. And we often use quite to show surprise. So because something is more than I expected. So I'm surprised by it. So if you're surprised by something, if you feel something was more than you expected, then we can use the word rather. Okay. Sometimes rather can be used in negative situations as well. Negative connotations. So if something is not that great. YFS fairly tired means tired enough. Fairly tired means kind of medium tired. Medium tired. So you've got tired, you've got extreme tired. It's kind of medium. Supergirl, good evening. How are you today? All right, so now let's look at the example sentences for rather. I've got the movie was rather boring. So again, remember, we're using it a lot of times in a negative situation, negative nuance. So the movie was rather boring. It was more boring than I expected. He's rather tall. All right, so he's noticeably tall, maybe more than you anticipated. He's rather tall. All right. So if something is more than you expect, if it's surprising, it's a little bit shocking, we can use rather. If it's negative, we can use rather. You're very welcome, YFS. All right. That's the main part of the grammar right here. Those 2 points, I think if you can remember that, you'll be fine. Okay. Quite is medium, rather is stronger, and it's more your surprise. Something is more than you expected. Okay. So for example, I went to the supermarket and I bought some, I bought some cauliflower. I love cauliflower. And it was rather expensive. All right. So it's saying that it's more than I expected. I was surprised by the price. Hello, Kaz. How are you today? How are you? Now, remember, when we make this sentence, when we make a sentence using either quite or if we make it using rather, the grammar pattern here is going to be quite and rather, then we use an adjective. Okay, quite and rather plus an adjective. Okay, or we could use it with an adverb as well. Okay, so there's 2 ways to make that sentence: quite or rather plus an adverb, or quite and rather plus an adjective. So if you notice, I've got quite good. It's an adjective. Quite tired, adjective. All right, if we look down here, rather boring, adjective. Rather tall, rather, and an adjective. Okay, so that's how we make the sentences. Make sure you always use an adjective or an adverb in today's lesson. Okay, now let's look at the position. Let's look at the position, right? So quite and rather, as I just said, it comes before the adjective. Before the adjective. Do not put it after. Do not say the meal was delicious quite. The exam was difficult rather. It's always before. Hello, XYZ. How are you today? All right, and the last part of the grammar I want to mention today is when we're using rather, as I said, we're using it often in a negative connotation, okay, a negative nuance, negative situation. So, for example, when we have disappointment, you're disappointed by something, you're surprised by something, we can use rather. The weather was rather terrible during our vacation. So it was, more terrible. It was worse than I expected. Okay, I was surprised. I thought the weather was going to be very nice. I went to Hawaii. I was expecting blue skies, sunny weather, but it rained. It rained a lot. So it was rather bad, rather terrible. Okay. If you are dissatisfied, that means you're not satisfied. You can use rather. The service at the restaurant was rather slow. All right. So I feel it was slower than it should have been. It was slower than it should have been. It should have been faster. Connotation XYZ just means the situation or the nuance or feeling, negative feeling. Good question. And the last sort of negative one I want to go over here is polite criticism or softening a negative statement. Polite criticism or softening a negative statement. So I found the book rather dull. Okay. The book was dull, but this phrasing is more polite. All right. So we can make something a little bit polite if we use rather, if we're criticizing something. Yes, XYZ. Perfect. Negative feeling. Perfect. You're very welcome. All right. So now let's just recap. Let's review. Quite means kind of medium level. We use it often in a positive situation. Rather has a stronger feeling. It's higher, and we use it if something is surprising, something is negative, something is disappointing, something is not as satisfying. And XYZ, yes, dull. Dull means not interesting. Dull means a little bit boring, not exciting. And no problem. Ask as many questions as you want. All right, so dull equals not exciting. Okay, so what we will do now is we will try to do an exercise where we must choose whether we use rather or dull. All right, we're going to choose rather or dull. All right, so choose whether to use quite or rather. Sorry, not dull. I got dull in my head. We're going to choose whether to use quite or rather. Quite or rather, okay? Remember, quite is medium level. Okay, it's a little bit more than average. Rather is something that's noticeable. It's maybe more than you expected. All right, now let's look at the number one here. Try to make it as big as I can. Oh, there we go. Number one. The weather today is something warm for winter. I didn't expect it to be this mild. The weather today is something warm for winter. I didn't expect it to be this mild. So we've got the word expect, right? So if you're thinking winter, if you think winter, you expect winter to be cold. But over here, we've got the word warm. We've got the word warm. So maybe it's a little different than I expected. Okay. But this is also kind of a positive meaning, right? So something is maybe more than average. All right. So for me, in this situation, my answer would be quite. The weather today is quite warm for winter. I didn't expect it to be this mild. Now, some of you might be saying, okay, well, why isn't it rather? Because it's more than you expected. And the reason why I chose quite here is because it's a positive sentence. It's a positive feeling, positive nuance. Rather is a little bit more for negative. All right, so let's try the next one. That movie was something boring. I almost fell asleep halfway through. That movie was something boring. I almost fell asleep halfway through. So boring means not exciting. It means dull. This is a negative, a very negative adjective. So generally, if you go to a movie, you don't expect it to be boring. You expect it to be interesting or exciting or fun. So this is not. This is maybe a little surprising for you. And it's negative, so YFS, you are right. The movie was rather boring. I almost fell asleep halfway through. Busa konbanwa, how are you today? And yes, rather, very good. All right, let's look at number three. Number three says, she's something talented, but she still needs more practice to become a professional. All right, so she's something talented, but she still needs more practice to become a professional. Supergirl rather, Kaz rather for number two is perfect. Let's see if I can get number two on the screen at the same time. There we go. I can put both on the screen. So for number three, YFS, yes, I know you just missed the E, just a typo. Yes, quite. She's quite talented. Let's say we're talking about a pianist. Maybe she plays the piano. She's quite talented, but she still needs more practice to become a professional pianist. Right? So she's at kind of a medium level of talent. She's not at that high level, that very level, the professional level yet. Yes, Supergirl, quite. Kaz, quite. XYZ, quite. Perfect. All right, so now let's look at number 4. Number 4 says, I found the instructions something confusing. It took me a while to figure them out. I found the instructions something confusing. It took me a while to figure them out. So let's imagine you buy a new TV, a new computer, or a new bookcase, and you have to put it together. You have to assemble it. You have to set it up. The instructions are confusing. All right, so Supergirl, YFS, rather. Perfect. All right, so confusing is something that's a little bit negative, so we're going to be using that rather instead. All right, so quite, if we just kind of think of it in the simple terms, positive, we use quite. Negative, we use rather. Okay, but there are some other challenges which we'll do in the next exercise. But so far, perfect from everyone. All right, I can't keep number 4 on the screen. Let's look at number 5 now, though. Kaz, rather, perfect. The party was something fun. I had a great time with everyone. The party was something fun. I had a great time with everyone. All right, so here we've got, party, fun. Fun is a positive adjective. I had a great time. So like we said, YFS, quite. Supergirl, quite. And quite is the correct answer. So party was quite fun. I had a great time with everyone. All right, now I can keep. All right, so what did I say previously? So quite is more positive. It means medium. But we're not going to use it to mean extreme. Even though I said here, I had a great time with everyone, it's still at that medium level. Yeah, not always, because rather can mean surprising as well, right? It can be surprising. It can be something that's a little bit more than you expected, and you're gonna see that a little bit later. So don't worry, you will see it in some of the exercises. But for the main part, I would say if you just think, quite is positive, rather is negative, you'll be fine for most of the times. But there are some times when something is surprising. All right, so what about, you're very welcome, XYZ. What about number 6? He was something disappointed with the results. He expected to do much better. All right, so my adjective here is disappointed. Would we use, in this situation, am I using quite or am I using rather? Quite or rather for this. He was quite disappointed. He was rather disappointed. YFS, rather, very good. Kaz, rather, very good. XYZ, rather, perfect. All right, so whenever you're disappointed, dissatisfied, we like to use the word rather. Smile, hi, how are you today? Fusa, rather, perfect. All right, let's look at number 7. This cake is something delicious. Could I have the recipe? Is it quite delicious or is it rather delicious? All right, YFS, quite delicious. Perfect. All right, delicious, positive adjective, right? It's something that's yummy. XYZ, quite good. Yeah, so here again, this is the positive connotation, positive feeling. The cake is very good. So I would say it is quite delicious. Could I have the recipe? Smell pretty good. That's good. That's good. I'm glad you're doing well. All right. We got 8, 9, and 10, and then we're going to go to the more difficult one after this. Number 8, the traffic was something heavy this morning. It took me twice as long to get there, or get here. Sorry, get here. The traffic was something heavy this morning. It took me twice as long to get here. Kaz, quite, very good, very good, very good. Caleb, quite, is that for number 7, Caleb? If so, perfect. And for number 8, YFS, rather, excellent. The traffic was rather heavy this morning. It took me twice as long to get there. All right, so here, of course, heavy. This is a negative connotation. The traffic, nobody likes traffic. Kaz, rather, perfect. XYZ, rather, perfect. Supergirl, rather, perfect. And then also, it's more than you expected, right? The time to come here, the time to go to your destination was double. It was twice as long. So it's more than you expected. It's negative, so rather. All right, excellent. Good job, good job. Number 9, let me get the banner off the screen so you can see number 9. All right, the hotel was something expensive, but it was worth it for the view. The hotel was something expensive, but it was worth it for the view. All right, YFS, rather. The hotel was rather expensive, but it was worth it for the view. I like the second part of that sentence. I think it's really great. It was worth it. Supergirl, not quite, because expensive. Nobody wants to spend a lot of money. So expensive is kind of a negative feeling. So I would say rather would be better here. So Kaz, I think this was could have been for number 8, but works for number 9 too. Kaz, perfect. Smile, I would use rather. Kaz, rather, perfect. And I want to go over the second part of that sentence a little bit. I want to go over the second part of that sentence. It was worth it. This is a great sentence. It was worth it. Please remember this sentence. So when we're saying something is worth it, that means the value is equal to the effort or the money that you used. So for example, if I'm climbing up a mountain, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to climb up the mountain, and I'm I'm dying. I'm exhausted. I'm sweating. My legs are burning. But when I get to the top, I get this beautiful view. So the effort of climbing, it was worth it because the view I could see was worth it. Right? I went to a dinner. I went to a Michelin, 3-star Michelin dinner, and it was really, really expensive. Like, I'm talking super expensive. But the food was so good. The food was super delicious. So I spent a lot of money, but it was worth it because the food I ate equaled that money. Okay. The effort I gave to climb to the top of the mountain equals the view that I could see. Yeah, so here, this is what I wanted to say. I think XYZ asked. So expensive is negative, but then the view is different. So you got a hotel, which is expensive, but the view is positive. So I could say the hotel was rather expensive, but the view is quite amazing. All right, so we could use both in one sentence. So rather is going to go with the negative price of the hotel, but the view is separate, but it kind of makes the whole sentence feel positive. All right, so that's what I was trying to say earlier. There are times when we can use rather, but then the total meaning of the sentence kind of feels positive because there's one aspect that's positive. Here, the view makes it positive. Now, it would be better if it was cheap and a great view. That's the perfect scenario. XYZ rather perfect. All right, and number 10, this is the last one before we go to the next exercise. The lecture was something informative, but I still need to read more on the topic. Fusa, difficult. Keep going, Fusa. You can do it. The lecture was something informative, but I still need to read more on the topic. Now, will I use the lecture was quite informative, or will I say the lecture was rather informative? So here we have to determine informative. Is this a positive adjective? Does this give me a positive feeling? And Supergirl, your answer, quite, yes. The lecture was quite informative. YFS, the lecture was quite informative. This means that I could get a lot of information. I could get a lot of information from this lecture. That's a good thing. Getting a lot of information is good. But second part of the sentence says, I still need to read more on the topic. Right? That means it's, my knowledge is not enough yet. So I still need to read more, but the lecture was quite informative. XYZ, quite perfect. Fighting Boars, how are you today? What's up? And Smile, yes, quite. Kaz, quite. Very good, very good. So today, Fighting Boys, we are using either quite or rather. Quite or rather. Okay, so that's the first part of the lesson. The first part of the lesson is just trying to get comfortable. We're trying to figure out, okay, when do I use quite? When do I use rather? Right? We broke it down kind of in simple terms. If you don't want to get too difficult into grammar, just think, okay, positive sentence, I'll use quite. And it means medium level. Negative sentence, I'll use rather. and it means a little bit disappointing, dissatisfied, surprising. All right, that's the easiest way just to distinguish them. No worries, Funny Boys, no worries. So next, we're going to continue with quite or rather, but it becomes a little bit more difficult now. In the next part of the lesson here, I'm going to give you a scenario. I'm going to give you a scenario, and once you listen to it or once you read it, then I want you to make a sentence. Oh, it's 5 a.m. It's 5 a.m. over there. Wow, that's early. I was up at 5 a.m. today too. So, for example, number one says, the scenario says, you visited a new city and went to a museum. The exhibits were interesting, but you felt the museum was smaller than expected. All right, so you visited a museum or city, you went to a museum, and the exhibits were interesting, but you felt the museum itself, the size of the museum, was maybe a little bit smaller than you expected. So in this situation, there are many possible things you could do. You could make 3 sentences. You could make 1 sentence. You could use quite. You could use rather. You could use both. All right, so there's 3 possibilities. You can make a sentence using quite. You can make a sentence using rather. You can make a sentence using both. So let's do each one. Let's do each one. I could say the exhibits were quite interesting. All right. They weren't amazing. They weren't like crazy great, but they were quite interesting. All right. That's here I'm using quite. Maybe next I'll use rather. The museum was rather small. The museum was rather small. Here I'm using rather. Now, of course, I could combine both of them. I could say the museum was rather small, but the exhibits were quite interesting. All right, so I can combine these 2 here. All right, so the last one here is I've said the museum was rather small, but the exhibits were quite interesting. Now, you don't have to make 3 sentences. You can just make 1. You can choose any one of these. You can put both quite and rather in the sentence also. All right, so that's what you're going to do. You've got your scenario, and then now you're going to be making a full sentence. So this is a little bit more challenging. You'll be practicing a lot more. You know, you're making a full, complete English sentence. So let's look at number 2. Number 2 says you attended a seminar. No, you don't have to make 3 sentences. Just 1 is okay. Just 1 is okay. But I just wanted to show you, you know, if you make the first sentence, it's correct. The first sentence is correct. Second sentence, correct. Third sentence, correct. So there's many different possibilities for you to make here. But just make 1 sentence. So number 2, you attended a seminar on a topic you knew a little about. The speaker was engaging, but you found some concepts challenging. Okay. So first, let's go over the scenario. You went to a seminar. A seminar is like a lecture. Someone is going to speak about a topic. And you know a little bit about this topic, only a little. The speaker was engaging. That means The speaker had good energy. The speaker was very enthusiastic, and you could connect with the speaker. You were very interested in the speaker. But some of the things she was speaking or he was speaking, it was a little bit difficult. It was challenging. All right, so what sentence could you make here, either using quite or rather? Supergirl, the speaker was quite engaging. Perfect. Perfect. YFS, the topic was rather challenging. Perfect. Fadiboras, the speaker was quite engaging, but I found some of the concepts rather challenging. Perfect. All right, so we had all three sentences. You guys gave them to me right there. Supergirl with quite, YFS with rather, Fadiboras with both. Perfect. Excellent. Good job. Good job. All right, Kaz, you've got some of the concepts. Don't forget the S. Some of the concepts at the seminar were rather challenging. Perfect. Just make sure you put an S and then change was to were. Some of the concepts at the seminar were rather challenging, but perfect. 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 Good job. Okay. And anybody wondering, what does concept mean? What does concept mean? Concept means idea. The ideas, the theme. All right, perfect. Let's go to number 3. You went to a friend's housewarming party. The house was nice, but the distance of the house from yours was not convenient. All right, so that friend's housewarming party, house was nice, but it's like, wow. I live in the city. My friend lives like way, way in the suburbs. Again, remember, you can make simple sentences. Just talk about the house. House was nice. We can make it a positive sentence. The second part of the sentence is a little bit negative, right? And I gave you a little bit more information. I live in the city. My friend lives like super in the suburbs. Takes like hour and a half by car. Or you can make something completely different. As long as you're talking about the housewarming party, you could talk about the actual party. Was the party positive? Was it negative? Okay, so Supergirl, the house was quite nice, but the distance of the house was rather inconvenient. Okay, now I have purpose. This is a perfect sentence, Supergirl, right? Inconvenient, so we're going to use rather. The house was quite nice, YFS. Perfect. Perfect. Right, that's perfect. Now, I'm purposely making this, like I've worded this a little strange. The distance of the house from yours was not convenient. We can make this in a much easier sentence. We can make this in a much easier sentence. I'm purposely making it like I've written it a little bit strange because I want people to learn. We want simple ways to say it. So I could say the party was or not the party, so the house. The house was quite nice, but rather far away. Okay. There we go. Nice. YFS, you put yours in before me. The house was rather far. Yeah. And I put far away. Far is fine. There you go. Miranda also put rather far away. Perfect. The house was quite comfortable, but and then here the distance from my house, even that I would just say it was because we're talking once you say far, we already know distance. We already know distance, so we don't need to say distance as the subject. We can just say it. It was far away. So this is a far away, perfect YFS. This is just a quick little hint for you guys. Sometimes I'm going to make these sentences like this. And number 2, I gave you guys the words challenging and engaging. Those are the adjectives. But from number 3 all the way to number 10, I want you to think, what is the adjective? What adjective can I use for this? How do I make it really simple? Okay, so I'm going to purposely make it a little bit more difficult. All right, so let's try number 4. You tried cooking a complicated dish for the first time. It turned out well, but it took forever to make. All right, so here again, you tried cooking a complicated dish for the first time. Maybe you tried making like beef Wellington. It turned out well. That's good. That's a good thing, but it took forever to make. What can we say here? Again, remember, simple sentence is fine. If you just want to practice, maybe this is difficult for you, just do like we were doing in the past exercise. You know, positive statement, just use quite. Negative statement, just use rather. All right, so you could just say, you know, the dish was quite delicious. What do we got here? Supergirl, the dish I made for the first time was quite good. Not quite well, quite good. We need an adjective here, not an adverb. You can say, I cooked it quite well. I cooked it quite well. I'm going to put that on the screen. I think this is really important to know. I cooked it quite well. All right. And then it was quite good. Okay, these are going to be different meanings. So easy way to know here. Easy way is I've got the be verb here. Okay, I've got be verb right here. Was. Generally with be verb, I'm going to be using an adjective. And we're basically trying to say something was good. So this means the dish. But in the top one, I'm talking about how did I cook it? So I'm modifying cook. So I'm talking about my action. So here I need an adverb. So verb and adverb, noun and adjective. But yeah, perfect. The dish I made for the first time was quite good, but rather time consuming. I love it. I love the adjective you used there. Time consuming. Perfect. The food I made was quite good, but it was rather taking forever to make. So here, rather, we need to have an adjective or an adverb. So taking is a verb, so that doesn't work. So something like Supergirl said, it was rather time consuming. So you tried to cook a dish that was rather complex. Very good. Very good. Excellent. So complex here is negative, and it's too complicated. Perfect sentence, Fighty Bars. XYZ, the dish was rather complicated, but it turned out quite good. Perfect. I love it, Miranda. The dish was quite scrumptious, though it took me rather long time. It took me a rather long time. Don't forget a here, because you've got a noun also. Time is a noun. So it took me, though it took me a rather long time. Scrumptious means delicious, if anybody's wondering. Excellent. Perfect. I like it. Everyone's got some good sentences here. If I wanted to say another one for it took forever to make, the dish took a rather long time to prepare. That's another one we could say. Because scrumptious means delicious. It means delicious. So if something is scrumptious, it is delicious. It is yummy. All right, scrumptious is delicious. All right, let's move on to number 5. You bought a new gadget online. The price was not bad, but the product didn't look like the photos online. You bought a new gadget online. So new gadget. What is a gadget? Does anybody know what gadget means? Delicious. Yes, perfect, Kaz. So gadget, by the way, anybody who's wondering what gadget means, gadget is going to mean a small mechanical or electronic device, or small little tool. Yes, Miranda, some type of device, usually small though. We want to make sure it's small. Tech item, yes, small. Perfect. So you bought a new gadget online. Price is not bad. The product didn't look like the photos online. Yeah, I think most people, we go online, we're looking at some gadgets, like, oh, that looks really cool. I want that. You buy it. The product comes, you're like, what? It doesn't look the same as the pictures online. All right, we got an answer here. Let's see. The price was quite affordable, but it didn't match with the photos. Yeah, that's good. I like it. XYZ, the price was quite good, but the product was rather shitty. Yes, nice. Perfect. And I laugh, but I shouldn't, because that's English. That's how North Americans speak. That's how I speak. If I'm talking with my friends, I will use that language. And it's not bad. You just have to know when to use it. I wouldn't say it at work. I don't say these words at business, but in conversation with my friends, even with my mom, I would say that. It's become a little bit more mainstream now. You can even see these words being used on television dramas, which when I was young, it was impossible to hear that, but now it's normal. Great sentence, XYZ. Okay, I've got maybe a little bit more PG sentence. Crappy, yeah, Fighting Birds, yeah, crappy is also same as shitty. Yeah, crappy is fine. Supergirl, you got here. The price was quite okay, but the product was rather false. The price was quite good. The price was quite reasonable. It's maybe better, but the product was rather bad, not false. The new gadget was quite useful, but rather different. No here, because there's no noun, but rather different from the advertisement online. Yeah. I wanted to put my sentence on here because I just wanted to show you, instead of using but, we can use though. Though is maybe a more formal way to use but. The product was rather disappointing, though the price was quite reasonable. Okay, let's look at number 6. You wanted to say crappy, but it didn't come out. That's okay. You use what I would probably use, XYZ. Good job. Perfect, Miranda. Nice. That's good. As long as you catch it yourself, that's awesome. That's great. All right, number 6 says you attended a job interview. You felt confident in your answers, but you were surprised about the level of difficulty of the questions. All right, so you went to a job interview. You feel confident in your answers, but you're a little bit surprised about the level of difficulty of the questions. So maybe the questions were more complicated, more complex than you expected. That being said, you're still confident in your answers. All right, so what would we put here? Again, simple sentence is fine. Confident. You could use confident as a good adjective. You could go negative, talking about the questions, or being surprised. If you're surprised about something, we can use rather. Perfect. Miranda even used though, just like I did previously. I was quite satisfied with my answers, though the questions were rather challenging. Perfect. This is an amazing sentence. This is better than the sentence I made. I was quite satisfied with my answers, though the questions were rather challenging. Supergirl, the questions of the job interview. I would say the job interview questions. The job interview questions were rather difficult, but I was quite confident. Perfect. Perfect. The questions were quite tough. Very good. Which I can't get it through with my quite positive confidence. Okay, that part, the ending part, I think we need to change a little bit, Fighting Birds. Like, questions were quite tough. That's good. You could say here, which I can't get it through with my quite positive confident. So the ending part, I'm a little confused here. So maybe the questions were quite tough. The questions were quite tough, but that being said, I feel quite confident in my answers. Supergirl, yeah, for yours, the questions of job interview. We just need to switch that. So the job interview questions or the interview questions. We don't need to put of here. The interview questions were rather difficult, but I was quite confident. Okay, let's do the next one. Number 7. You went hiking on a trail. Oh, let's go here. I was quite confident, even though the questions were rather, great YFS. I love it. I was quite confident, even though the questions were rather challenging. Excellent. Perfect. Perfect. Supergirl, you're very, very welcome. All right, number 7, you went hiking on a trail that was recommended to you. The views were stunning, but the slope was very sharp. The views were stunning, but the slope was very sharp. Stunning means beautiful. Stunning means beautiful. Slope was very sharp, so we're looking at like that. All right, that's the trail you went on. All right, very sharp slope. What could we say here? And we're coming to the end of the lesson as well. We've only got 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 I'll leave for homework, so we only got 2 more after this. So Supergirl says, the view was quite amazing, but to get there was rather tough. I like it. I like it. The view is quite amazing, but to get there was rather tough. I like it. The views were quite breathtaking, yet the slope was, don't forget your verbs here. The slope was rather steep. Rather steep. I like it. Good job, Fighter Bros. The views were quite picturesque. Excellent, Miranda. Quite picturesque. But the slope was rather daunting. Wow, very, very good. Excellent adjectives. Perfect. Fighter Bros perfect was rather steep. For me, I actually use steep in my answer as well. My answer I'll leave as a banner as well. The trail was rather steep, but the views are quite stunning. Okay. I do like that, most of you used a different adjective than stunning. So we had picturesque, which is great, breathtaking, great, amazing, great, excellent. Right, breathtaking, excellent. All right, let's look at number 8. You read a book that was highly recommended. The story was exciting, but the ending could have been better. The story was exciting, but the ending could have been better. Yes, YFS, you corrected it. Yeah, it was quite a great view. Quite a great view. So put "a" in front of the adjective. So it was quite a great view, but the path was rather challenging. Perfect. So quite a great view. All right, so what do we have for number 8? Let's see. Supergirl, the story was quite good, but the ending was rather crappy. Perfect. You can say shitty. That's okay. Miranda here, not a page turner, the page turner. The story was quite the page turner, though the ending was rather disappointing. Perfect. Perfect. Just put the. It's quite the. Whenever we're going to use that type of sentence, quite the something, quite the player, quite the view, it's always the. Fighting Boards, the story was quite intriguing, though the ending must have been improved. Must be improved, not have been. Must be improved, or should have been improved. Should have been improved, or you can just put. You can just say B as well. I had a different answer here. Where is mine? Let's see if it's still in here. This was my answer. Oh, one sec. Let me fix it. There we go. I caught my own mistake. Even though the story was quite good, the ending was rather anticlimactic. Even though the story was quite good, the ending was rather anticlimactic. You didn't say shitty. Okay, sorry. XYZ did. Yeah, so because there's certain expressions, it's always going to be the, quite the, and it's going to be usually used for a noun. But yeah, it's going to, in this situation, it's going to be never at in that situation. Fighting Boys should be improved. Perfect. And I'm going to put this as a banner for you, Miranda, just so you kind of try to follow just kind of this general idea. Quite the and then thing. Okay, this is page turner. Page turner is a thing. So quite the thing, quite the player, quite the drama. What does anticlimactic mean? In other words, yeah, disappointing, right? Perfect. So most books, most TV shows, most movies, right? It goes in this pattern where you're gonna go. You have your peak, and then you're gonna have kind of like the ending of the movie. And I think for mystery movies or action movies, you kind of want this like great ending, and you want this surprise ending and something that's like, oh wow, that was amazing. But suddenly you're like, that was the ending? What? So it is, the expectation, you're hoping it finishes here, but then it finishes here. That would be anticlimactic. Okay, so it's something that's sort of disappointing, like as Fadibor said. The story was quite good, but the ending was rather unexpected. Yeah, perfect. Don't forget the ending or the ending. You're welcome, Miranda. All right, and let's do one more. Let's do number 9. Number 10, I'll leave you for homework. Number 9 says, you stayed at a hotel during your vacation. The room was comfortable, but the view from the room didn't look the same as their website. And also, anticlimactic is also only talking about stories, whether it's a book, a TV show, a movie, a play, even sports as well. Sports, because sports events kind of play out like a story. You hate articles, you always forget them. Yeah, articles. It's tough. It's tough because some languages don't have articles in it. So it's hard to remember to put those in there. Some languages do have it, so that's sometimes it's easier for people from those languages. But just one good thing, YFS, at least, I grew up having to study French, being from Canada. So I studied French for a long, long, long time. And every noun I had to remember whether it's a masculine a noun or a feminine noun, because that would change the article. So at least English, there's no masculine or feminine. All right, so number 9, you stayed at a hotel during your vacation. The room was comfortable, but the view from the room didn't look the same as their website. All right, so what would we say here? Okay, all right, XYZ. The room was quite comfortable, but the view was rather shitty. There we go, perfect. Firebird's room was quite cozy, nice, but the view from the room was rather not discouraging. I would say disappointing better. Discouraging is more you're going to use for an action, not for an actual like view or something. So an action we would use discouraging. Maybe you could say the service was rather discouraging, but I would say disappointing here. YFS, the room was quite comfortable, but the view was rather disappointing. Perfect. There you go. That's good. I'm glad that you were thinking about it, Fibers. Perfect. Miranda, the room was quite comfortable, but the view was here. You can't put not. I would put not in the satisfying part. So the view was rather unsatisfying. Rather unsatisfying. Because rather is generally going to be introducing a negative connotation, negative nuance, put the not into the adjective. What do we have here? Supergirl, the room was quite okay, but the view is rather disappointing. Good. Fighter Boys, but instead of disappointing, what else can we say? You could say depressing. You could say upsetting. You could say second rate. Pitiful. Terrible. Perfect, Fighter Boys. Excellent. Excellent. Good job. I like it. All right. Perfect. Good job. Good job. Yes, I can write them down. 1 second here. I'll write them down as a banner. All right, let's say I'm going to add a few more that I didn't write. Here's some of the ones that I said, a couple of extras as well. So upsetting, inadequate, substandard, pitiful, below par, depressing. All right, so these are all words for sort of disappointing. You're very welcome, Fabros. Fabros, can you speak French? Est-ce que vous parlez français? I'm going to put one more in here. 1 sec. I thought of another one that I like. I like this next one I'm going to put in here. The last one here, underwhelming. Underwhelming I like as well. I think it's really, really good. Guys, nice. I agree. I've been rewatching your live lessons. I'm learning a lot. Someday I hope I can catch up to the speed of your lessons like other people. Respect, guys. Nice, cuz. Good job. So comfortable. Supergirl, can I speak French? Nah, in a past life. I used to be able to. In Canada, we had to speak French. Canada has 2 languages, English and French, but I've lost all my French. I think if I studied again, I could probably quickly start speaking again, but no. Unfortunately, no. So we had, instead of comfortable, all right, so I'm going to put comfortable on there as well. I think Miranda had that. I think somebody said cozy. Cozy was one of the answers someone said earlier. That's another word for comfortable. Snug. I like that one. Pleasant. Enjoyable. These are all sort of standard ones. Plush. I like. Home-like. I like this other one. Comfy. Restful. So here are some more sort of Other words you can use instead of comfortable. Comfortable, cozy, snug, pleasant, enjoyable, plush, home-like or homey. We could even say homey, comfy, restful. Okay, so what we will do now, I'm going to put number 10 on the screen. This is for anybody who wants to do some homework. Leave it in the comment section. If you want to do it right now, you can. I can quickly check it. But if you want to do it later, that one can be for your homework. I thought there was no way, no French. Yeah, it's a beautiful language. It's yes, snug. YFS means comfortable. We have a great expression, snug in a bug. Like snug like a bug. Snug as a bug. Snug as a bug. That's it. I'm forgetting English. Snug as a bug. So sometimes, when you're in bed, you get into your bed, you've got your blanket up to your neck, you're all tucked in, you're feeling quite comfortable and you're feeling quite pleasant. You can say, I'm snug as a bug in bed. Snug as a bug in bed. Yeah, languages are cool, Fibros. I think languages are cool too. I really want to learn Spanish. Yeah, I do. I haven't done a slang lesson or an idiom lesson for a while. So yeah, I'll have to do that soon. Thank you, XYZ. All right, so number 10 is on the screen. Make a sentence using, of course, rather or quite. You could use both if you wanted. You can just use one if you wanted. And leave that in the comment section. And also let me know if you liked this time. If you like the new time. Today is Saturday. I usually do it really early in the morning. I know for Fadiboys, it's super early for her right now. So maybe it's not that great. But let me know if you like the new time or if you prefer the previous time. Was it a short? No, I did. I think it was a live lesson, XYZ. I did a lot of idioms and slang live lessons where we did idiom, slang, stuff like that. Thank you, XYZ. Yeah, the Olympics are great. The Olympics are great. I really enjoyed them. The Paralympics are coming out next, so I'm excited about that as well. I will have an Olympic idiom video out very soon. So idioms that are based on sports in the Olympics. Fighterboards, you already answered. The actors were quite skillful and proficient, but the plot was rather strange for me. Sure. Miranda, over my head. Over my head means it's too difficult. It's too difficult. Too complicated. Right, so too complicated. If something is over my head, you're just saying I don't understand. It's too complicated, too complex. XZ, for the basketball, do you talk like that with your friends? Yeah, I mean, yeah, for my sort of friends who watch basketball, like I do, yeah, that's how we would talk. We really analyze the game, and because we've all played it or we like watching it a lot, so we're always talking about the weak points, the positive points, what they could have done, what they should have done. But yeah, that's how we talk. It's kind of like we call it armchair, like an armchair quarterback. This is a person who sits on their sofa and they're kind of being like the coach. So you guess what over my head? Yeah, not boring. It's going to be too difficult. Too difficult. So a lot of people who watched Inception, that movie. A lot of people said it was over my head. It's that speed, probably that speed. The only difference, XYZ, about when we talk about basketball, in that lesson, it's just me talking. But when I'm talking with my friend, we're cutting each other off. Like we're disagreeing with each other, we're agreeing, and I might cut my friend off and say something, and that's the only difference. There's probably more people attacking and aggressively speaking. Miranda, the actors were quite realistic, but the plot was rather difficult. Perfect. Perfect. All right, so we already got some good answers here. Fighting Boys, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining. It was really early for you. I'm glad. Hopefully this helps to get your day going. So Inception was too difficult for me, so it was boring for me to watch. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Perfect, Supergirl. Okay, guys. Any more questions you have, just leave them in the comment section. I'll check them out later. I will be doing more live lessons in the coming week. So if you have any lesson requests, just let me know. We did have a lesson request recently for gerunds and infinitives, and I did that on Thursday. So if you do have any requests, I think someone said do a slang lesson, so I'll do that as well. Just let me know in the comment section. You could say boring for this, Supergirl. I would, because it's over my head, I would say it was, it was rather complicated. So I was bored. So I might make it two-part. It was rather difficult, so I was bored. Fighting Boys, thank you very much. XYZ, thank you very much for joining. Thanks for the comment. Mixed conditionals, either, neither. All right, perfect, Miranda. Thank you. I love it. Thanks for the request. These help me too. Gives me ideas. I've got so many lessons that I've made, but I always try to figure out what do people want. So this helps. Out of my league. Okay, nice. And YFS, thank you as well. Kaz as well, thank you very much, Kaz. And Fusa, I know you were there for a little while as well. Thank you as well. Hopefully you're still watching. Smile as well. Thank you. All right, guys. It's time for me to. Oh, one sec. I got a great question for us. A little different. Over my head, out of my league is a little different. Generally, out of my league means that's I don't belong in that situation. And a lot of times we will use this when we're talking about dating, right? So for example, like, oh, I saw, a beautiful woman, or I saw a beautiful man, and I want to talk to that person, but I can't. They're out of my league. So their level is too high. So it's probably more talking about dating, or maybe we're talking about sports. They're out of my league means they're much better than me. But if something is complicated, I don't understand it, then it's over my head. Perfect, Fighting Boys. No problem at all. Do you really say out of my league? Yeah, for sure. And not just I won't say out of my league. I'll say to my friend, no. Hey, she is out of your league. Miranda, thank you very much. Bye to you as well. Have a great day. And Fusa, I'm glad you're watching. Thank you. Okay, guys. Until the next lesson, perfect XYZ. until the next lesson, thank you guys all for joining. Quite and rather, it's a great English to know how to use. Everybody did very well today. Keep it up. Keep up the great work. And I look forward to seeing you guys all in the next lesson. See ya.